Okay folks, we're back. I've been chilling with the seals. They were very cute. So everyone's got something going on, and it's honestly really hard to discover new things, let alone revisit old things. So you know what, I thought I wanted to make a video about anime that actually stuck with me. Anime that actually kept me coming back. And here's the twist. See, some of these aren't even necessarily my favourite shows I've ever seen. They're great, obviously, because why wouldn't I mention them? But it's mostly stuff that's resonated with me as an aspiring artist. These are shows that I can actually take from and apply to my own work, and hopefully they might help you too. So these are anime that inspire ideas. I mean, we're only ever seeing more influence of anime in the media. I mean, if any of you guys have seen Creed 3, you know what I'm talking about. So for my comedy lovers, the first series I wanted to mention in this list was Sakamoto Desuka. This actually is one of my favourites, because the humour in this is like the perfect balance between outlandish and dry. It turns the most trivial things into jokes. Sakamoto as a character, his whole premise is he's just the perfect human being, and the jokes derive from him avoiding any kind of flaw. Yeah, Nane Sano is awesome. Like, she's just such a good writer. Like, her comedic timing is just on point. Like, she needs to write more stuff, honestly. I don't know why she hasn't. She's so good. This show is brilliant, and the reason I mention it is because of how the show is edited to generate humour. The editing, the frame selection, that's just deeper, nerdy stuff, but honestly, it's worth watching just for a laugh. But it is something that's really worth getting into. I mean, a lot of early artists and up-and-coming filmmakers, not many of them actually do comedy because it's just such a difficult thing to do. But the build-ups, like the execution and the timing of these jokes, they're ridiculous, but I think it's something that should honestly be used more. So if you haven't seen it yet, absolutely watch it. It's just so stupid, but it's so good. Another. I mean, some people might just be like, oh, another? Really? Just such an original thought, Jay, Jesus. I mentioned this show and manga in another video of mine about the aesthetics of anime, and the reason I keep coming back to this show is just because of the atmosphere. Like, I literally got the original novel as well to see if the sort of style and the tone translated, and it actually kind of does, which is strange. I think it's just a testament on how well they translated the art style into animation. Again, the editing and colour palette is so nice because you get a lot of stills, just stills, of the landscape being doused in the overcast sky. That was a very poetic sentence. I feel disgusting. But for those who haven't seen the anime, the landscape, the school, everything about the environment is absolutely integral to the tone of the show. It's not just because it's set there just for a story to happen, but the environment itself plays a huge part in the story element. And this is something that's done in a lot of Junji Ito's works as well. I mean, the basic example is Uzumaki. The village in itself is a character. I mean, this is a massive curveball, but think of Hot Fuzz. Like, you don't have a story if you don't have Sanford. Sanford is Hot Fuzz. That's the importance of having a good location. I bet no one has ever compared another to Hot Fuzz before. We switch it up on this channel, what can I say?
She tripped and fell on her own shears.
Serial Experiments Lane. So this is kind of a follow-up on the importance of implementing a really good environment into the story, except this is more tailored towards shot selection, specifically for the thematic. See, in Serial Experiments Lane, you've got all of these existentialist ideas, and you need to ask, okay, how are we going to represent this visually? How are we going to represent a loss of someone's identity through visuals alone? And it's the perfect example of show, don't tell. And that's just without mentioning sound design. Again, another reason I come back to this is to look at how sound can play a huge role in representing a character's emotions. It's just such a perfect encapsulation of that. I feel like over time, Serial Experiments Lane has just become a bit more popular because weirder things are getting a bit more popular now thanks to the uprising of new artists with new ideas, and that's really great to see because it is a very old show, but it's always worth coming back to because age hasn't hurt it in the slightest. It's still a really good representation of the psyche, of the human psyche. So if you're into anything like Taxi Driver or Nightcrawler, or there's a lot of messed up characters actually. Look, if you like that type of thing, this might be for you. I actually took a lot of ideas from Serial Experiments Lane and implemented them into my own short film called The Willow Man. One example is Experiments Lane uses wires and electric towers to represent the loss of oneself. I used trees and tree branches because deterioration. It's all about just taking ideas from other things you've seen and making it your own. That's kind of like just the premise of art. Just steal everything. I think that's what Picasso said. Something like that, I don't know. This video is so pretentious, man, honestly. God. Girls' Last Tour. I promise I'm not depressed making this list. I do appreciate it. It looks like a downward spiral, but you know, I'm fine, guys. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I like these shows. That's it. So I watched this show when it came out, and shout out to Joey the Anime Man because he made a video about it like years back, and I watched it and I was like, you know, I'm gonna check this out. It looks really good. So shout out Joey. I know you like music. I know you're a musician. If you ever want to hop on a little track, maybe make a little single, let me know. He's not fucking watching this. Very plodding, very slow, very introspective, and it really makes me think about silence and restrictions. It kind of goes back to the old school dogma like directors would used to follow way back when they'd set out a list of restrictions and they'd stop themselves from doing anything in particular, and with those restrictions becomes creativity. You have to sort of think outside of the box, even though you're restrained in a box. It's on that vibe. It just forces the filmmaker to be way more creative, and if you do like this tone, I really recommend you watch Leave No Trace. It was directed by Deborah Granick. It's just a great journey film, and really, again, introspective, and it's about two characters who are making their way through a world, and they're experiencing some crazy things. But when you have such a vast yet restricted world, really the tiniest things matter. You know, just the smallest character interactions and the smallest things they come across, it actually makes it that much more powerful, which is so interesting, and you can definitely take that into other things you do. Blue Period. Honestly, this is probably still my favourite video I've made so far on this channel. The existence of this anime can really help people who need to realise or even re-realise what they want to do and just what makes them happy. You don't have to be a painter to watch this show. It takes you on a very natural journey of the main protagonist who starts off same position as a lot of people, not knowing what they want to do, but they come across something they kind of like, and then it gets progressively better. They work harder and harder, and they realise that they love this thing, and it just reaches a crazy point, and it's a very great journey. It's a pretty simple premise. I mean, you've just got a character who works really hard until his idols become his rivals. It's, you know, shonen in that sense, but Blue Period has a lot of underlying themes and just so many great inspiring little messages put in, and I think it can help so many people. The show is just gorgeous. It's beautifully animated. I love the art in it. I love the characters, and it made me love film and anime again after I went through sort of my own crisis. It's kind of weird, but it kind of revitalized my love for art. Your Lie in April. Yeah, this is just a classic. Loads of people know about the show. It's just popular for good reason. It's been out a long time, and yeah, I wonder why I chose this one out of all the other dramas. I find you either love Your Lie in April or Forest of the Piano. Both kind of have their merits, but if you are going to watch Forest, I think you should start with the film first, because that was the original thing that came out, and I think it's pretty good. I kind of stopped watching the anime. It wasn't... Yeah. But this was one of the big dramas. It was one of the heart-wrenchers, and it's genuinely really important for the anime scene. I mean, stuff like Clannad, which I'll probably never watch again because that got too deep, man. That got too deep. Stuff like Anohana, we just got this massive rise of dramas from 2010, and they're all great because of how simple and grounded they first appear, but underneath, there's so much more going on, and this is only helped with the use of the animation. I come back to Your Lie in April and a lot of these dramas specifically because the writer and subsequently the animators capture the emotions of their characters through visuals, and it's represented in a very unique way with this particular anime because pianos. Music. The creators manipulate the frame to exhibit a specific emotion, and my favourite scene is Winter's Wind. It just slaps. But yeah, it just made me pick up piano again. Like, I played keyboard as a kid, and then I just sort of stopped for so many years. Then I watched this, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try again. Devilman Crybaby. This is my shit. Deep-rooted philosophies, stylized animation, and the production team just... they weren't scared of showing anything. I actually have a weird feeling that the team who worked on Cyberpunk Edgerunners was really inspired by this particular show, because it's kind of similar tonally. I mean, you're dealing with really corrupt environments, and the fact that it's hard to differentiate the humans between the demons at the end, it's just ridiculous, and you know, it's not something I'm going to spoil if you haven't watched it. And I think it's a statement on the sort of uprising of darker, more rebellious themes, and Chainsaw Man is just, again, a huge statement on that, and I think Devilman is just a really important stepping stone for animation studios to be like, you know what, maybe we can get a little darker, maybe we can get a little bit more, like, gritty with it. Yeah, Devilman is just dark, but it knows it needs to be for its point to get across, and it's that self-awareness and just balls to the wall confidence, which I think gets me to think about what else can be done in this scene. How rebellious can you really get? So we've covered art style, themes, editing, all that sort of thing, but I think there's one more thing that I want to say which ties everything together, and that is with Monster. And with Monster comes the importance of writing. I come back to Monster more times than I care to admit because of how well the characters are written. Shock, like when you have interesting characters, you're on your way to making an interesting show. I mean, who would have thought? I was watching interviews with actors not long ago, and one of the best things an actor or a voice actor can have is a fleshed out image of their character, a really good foundation, their intentions, maybe their background, anything that gives them a general consensus of who that character should be, and usually it's up to the actor, if they're emotionally intelligent, to create this character. And that's why actors have so many different styles, because each person has their own way about doing things. How the characters in Monster are written is just so dynamic, it's so clever, and their dialogue is masterful, which again is something to always take into consideration when creating a story, is to make dialogue meaningful, don't have filler, and that's what Monster provides. It provides every sentence, every action, each character. Everything a character does is for a good reason, and this is the perfect example of that. I'm not going to say too much more about Monster because I definitely have plans for this particular series, but do watch it if you haven't. It's so good. So there you have it, these are the shows that have massively inspired what I do, and that's the magic of film. There's always something new to take from whatever you're watching, and that's just because it's made by someone who has their own perspective. But if there are any anime or films that have heavily inspired you or changed your perspective on anything, like, let me know in the comments section, because I'm just so interested in everyone else's perspective on this. Chances are you're probably going to say something I've never even watched because there's so much out there, so if you do, I probably will watch it and I'll comment about it. Maybe I'll review it or something. That should be really interesting too. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't, and take care.